I finally have a finished project for myself. Welcome to episode 26 of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. No, I'm not pink anymore. I know, I miss it, but it was a lot of maintenance and I really struggled with the upkeep of it, and I really didn't like the fade. So I expedited the fading of the pink and I have an appointment with my hairstylist coming up just for a cut, and she'll assess it as to whether it can be dyed again or if it needs a little bit more time to recover. But I'm hoping to just go back to more of a natural color. Weirdly, this is what my hair looked like in high school, and not gonna lie, it's freaking me out a little bit. I was at the gym earlier this week and Numb by Linkin Park came on during the workout, and that is a song that I played probably on repeat, I'd say for a good 3 months in high school. High school was not a great time for me. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. But it was kind of weird to have this parallel experience of having the same color hair that I had in high school, listening to a song that I heard and listened to all the time in high school. But my mindset and my personality and my self-esteem, it's so wildly different now to what it was back then. And, it was kind of a touching moment for me because on the one hand, I remember how much I was struggling in high school versus now I feel like I know who I am and I'm feeling very confident in myself. I have all of the things that I wished so hard for when I was in high school, and it just made me want to give my high school self a really big hug. So, kind of a funny moment to have had this week, and to be reliving a color that I used to have. But yeah, I am in a way better place now than I was in high school, and I was just feeling in that moment really grateful for all that I have achieved since high school. And one of the things that I've achieved is having this really cool podcast to share all my knitting with all of you. So let's get into this podcast, shall we? I have one finished object and one bonus finished object to share with you. I have 4 whips, 2 stash spotlight yarns, and 1 book review. So a little mix of a couple of different things, and I don't know if this will be long or short, so let's dive in, shall we? Starting with my finished object. I am just so relieved to have this project done. It's obviously not perfect. I think no one will be surprised to hear me say I don't love it. Don't even know how much I will wear it. However, I have been wearing it a lot lately because I don't have a lot of summer tops that I have knitted for myself. And I'm really enjoying the cool viscose material. It's been really nice. We've been having a lot of humidity lately. Not necessarily like sunny days or hot days, just a lot of humidity. And today is no exception. It's an overcast day. It started off with a bit of rain. The rain has finished now, but you can feel this dampness in the air. So something like this is really perfect. And I have styled it with a button-up chambray shirt, which I bought recently. I have been looking for a chambray shirt to fit me very well. I found this one at Winners. So if you're in Canada, Winners is like TJ Maxx, which is in the States, or TK Maxx over in the UK. So it's basically just like a store where they get brands that they only have like a certain amount of the items, and it's kind of those hit or miss type of stores. But I got a hit, and this is actually on sale too, so I was very happy about that. And I love it with the jewel tone pink. I think it looks really nice. This yarn is Loops and Threads, silky soft in the color Boysenberry. So let me take off my really nice new shirt to talk about the shirt that I don't actually like very much. I think it will surprise nobody that although I tried my best, we still have this big gaping armhole, and I did have one or two people comment that it's your yarn choice, it's going to be like that anyway, and I actually disagree with that because I chose that pattern because it was made using a plant-based fiber. I'm using not the identical fiber. I think the one that was used in the sample was a linen blend, but I did choose a pattern that used a plant-based yarn as well, knowing that I would get, or hoping that I would get, a similar drape. So on the one hand, yes, this is a very drapey yarn, but I chose a pattern that used a similar fiber yarn, and I knit a smaller size, but of course we all know from me talking about this in my previous episode and sharing my turmoils on Instagram, this was a bad pattern. A little follow-up to this, when I posted my finished pictures of this on Instagram, that was the first time that the designer interacted with me, and she only speaks French, so there is a language barrier with us, but she did comment on the post, and from what I could translate, because I just have high school French, it's not the best, but she said, "Thanks for your revisions and persistence," and that was all I got out of her, and, kind of disappointed me. I didn't seek her out to tell her that I had a bad experience with the pattern, but her seeing my experience obviously didn't resonate with her and make her want to fix her pattern in any way, which it's her choice to do that. But that tells me that she didn't really want to address the issues that I had, which, like I said, it's her choice whether or not to address them and rework her pattern or anything like that. It just tells me that that's a designer that I'm not going to purchase from again. So if you are interested, this is the Baigneuse tank by Emily Louise, and I had a lot of trouble with it. I know at least 2 other people that I've spoken to who are smaller sizes than me who also had trouble with this pattern, so make an educated choice whether or not you would like to work this pattern or not. Hey, I don't tell people what to knit, and I don't judge what people knit, but if you would like to look at this pattern, that's what it is. So let's talk about some of the changes that I made, because I did make quite a few changes to this pattern. First of all, when I did my first 2 pieces and I joined them in the round, we all remember this is what it looked like. A horror show of an armhole. It definitely made this look like one of those like gym bro shirts that you see. All of those guys that are like pumping iron and they think they're so cool, so they like wear these shirts with these huge cutouts to show off all their muscles. If that is your preferred look, go for it. Definitely was not mine. And I was really, really disappointed when I wanted to make a cute little fitted yet flowy tank top, getting those gigantic armholes. That was not what I was going for. So I did make an initial modification of, I went back to where I first joined the front and the back panel, and I omitted all of the underarm stitches. So when I joined, instead of having the front piece, a few stitches, and then the back piece, and that would join into the round, I just cut them out completely. In fact, when I joined, I used the joining method of when you knit the first stitch of the second piece that you're joining, you pass the last stitch of the front piece over that first stitch, and that sort of just like kind of locks them together in place. And I did that on both sides, so technically I have 2 stitches less on my front and back pieces, which is totally fine. It didn't really make any difference whatsoever. So that fixed it up a little bit. And then when I went to do my armhole ribbing, I knew it was still too big. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do a smaller rate of pickup to do my ribbing, and hopefully that will further cinch in the hole. And because I'm lazy and I didn't want to do any calculations or whatever, I just picked up every second stitch. And for the most part, it did a good job. In my earlier photos and reels of this, it was further up high, and it did look like it was well fitting. It grew with blocking, and I tried my best to smoosh it back into place, but you need to block your knits, and I always block my knits, so I knew that there was a potential for that to happen. I am still wearing the tank top. It does not bother me to have the side of my bra on display. For the most part, my arms are down. They're covering it. You can't even see my bra. If my arms are up like this and you can see my bra, it's a piece of fabric that is the same color as my skin. If that offends you, that says more about you than it does about me. So it doesn't bother me, but if it bothers somebody else, sorry, this is what my shirt looks like and I'm comfortable, so that's a you problem, not a me problem. So then I also wanted to address the neckline, because when I first picked up my neckline, it looked like this, and it was I didn't mind the wide neckline. What I minded was that the side seams, so the edges of the tank top, were kind of coming off the edge of my shoulder like this, and I just don't like that look. I find that it just makes my shoulders look more sloped, and it's just not the best look for me. It's not what I like to wear. So I went back and I undid my ribbing for the neckline, and I did the same pickup rate that I did for my sleeves, every second stitch, and that really brought it up in, and it brought it to the edge of my shoulder, which I much prefer. The only problem is, because this is such a drapey yarn, I knew it had the potential to grow, and I was worried that it would stretch out. I did a relatively tight bind off. You can tell it's pretty tight. And because this is a very slippery fabric, it does this. And it slides backwards, and that very, very tight neckline starts to come across my neck, and it feels like it's choking me. So I'm constantly pulling it back down and getting that away from my neck, which it does bother me, but at the same time, clearly it's not bothering me enough that it's stopping me from wearing my tank top. So, pros, cons, some things I can deal with, some things I can't. This is something that I can deal with. I have that on another one of my tops that I've made out of a plant-based fiber. So, maybe it's just a plant-based yarn thing. Maybe it's the fact that top that I made and this top both don't have short rows on the back, so maybe there's not enough extra fabric on the back to keep it in place so that this stays down. I'm not sure. But I have finally finished this tank top. I did really love working with this yarn, though. It is really, really lovely. It is very slippery, so I recommend using wooden needles, not metal needles, unless you are very good at controlling your stitches and make sure they don't just slide right off. And it's kind of splitty, so if you struggle with yarn that splits and not catching it properly, this might not be the yarn that you would like to use. But I actually didn't mind working with it. I found it really enjoyable. I found that it did have nice slide because it is a slippery yarn. I love the sheen of it. I think that's beautiful. And of course the color. I love this color. I just wish that it was a little better, you know. It's okay. Like I've made my peace with this pattern. I've made my peace with my project. I'm happy with what I got, but I'm still going to look at other options for tank tops in the future. Never going to make that pattern again. Probably never going to knit anything by that designer again. And although I do have this yarn in 2 other colors, I'm going to be much more thoughtful about how I choose to use this yarn in the future. Because there's other things about it that I don't really love. for one thing, this took, I think, 3 or 4 days to dry on the blocking mats. Yeah, it took a long time. And yes, we have humidity right now, but I had it sitting directly under the fan from our heat pump, so it was getting constantly blasted with air. But it wasn't drying and it wasn't drying, so I now realize that I probably should have knit this at a looser gauge, even if that meant that it would be a more open style knit. So I'm going to take that into account when I think about what I want to use that yarn for in the future. Because as much as I love the look of this pretty opaque fabric, like you really can't see through it. It's a really nice tight gauge. I think my gauge was 26 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. I really love it. I don't look forward to washing this in the future. And whenever I do block my knits, I do put them in the washer and spin them first to get most of the water out. So that was 3 to 4 days after spinning water out of it. So this sucker just holds on to water. And I think it's because it was knit at such a tight gauge. But it looks really pretty. There's also one other element to this yarn that I really don't like, and it has happened twice already. This yarn gets picked very easily. So I already have 2 spots on the front of this tank top where a thread of the yarn has pulled, and I've had to just stuff it into the back because I hate having to like go and even out the tension again, and it's only like 2 or 3 strands of the multi-strand piece of yarn, so it's not even like an actual thread whole like piece of the yarn that came out. It was like partial threads of the yarn because, like I said, it's a very splitty yarn. So one of those was from the handle on my dresser, and I think the other one was from one of my cats because I noticed it this morning after I'd been holding one of the cats, and I don't remember like brushing up against anything else. So thanks, Nugget. She was the cat I was holding this morning. But yeah, it's fine. Like, you don't really notice it. I wonder if you can even see it. There's one right here. I'm not even holding it high enough for you to see. I just don't want to flash my bra, but like there's one right about here, and the other one is further down and is too dangerous to show you without flashing. But what I've done is on the back I have just pulled the thread through. Like that's all I've done. It's nothing special. It's, not really secured in any way. It's just been pulled through, and that's good enough for me. Like, I've had that happen with my 2 tank tops, my botanical tees that I made that were made using Trubu, which is almost an identical yarn to this. And yeah, you just kind of got to live with it, which is annoying, but I want to wear my clothes. I don't want to be fearful of anything happening to them and that keeping me from wearing them. So it's just a side effect of the yarn, and I think it's worth it. It's a beautiful yarn. It's got lovely drape. It's got lovely shine. And the tank top is done. What else can I say? Hi, Nug. Want to come up? Come here, sweetheart. Here's the little rascal herself. Hi, Nug. May not be able to see her. She might be behind my basket here, but Nugget has arrived. Oh, there she is. You can just see her in the corner there. She'll probably come over and start biting these handles. She loves these handles. But I told you I had a bonus second finished item. It's not knitting, but it's knitting related. I did a tufted piece. So this is my second time doing tufting. Please don't judge the words at the bottom. They are meant to say the knitter. They say something. I don't quite know what, but they do say something. But I did this tufted piece with a friend of mine. Did you just sneeze? You might have heard a little kitty sneeze. But I did a tufting class with a friend of mine. It was her gift to me for our wedding back in October, and we finally got around to doing it in the end of June, I think, and then we both had to go back again to finish our pieces because we didn't finish them in the one session. And I chose to do a tarot card representing the knitter, which I thought was so cool. My arm is getting tired from holding that up. But I loved the concept, and I found an idea that I liked, but it wasn't easy enough to do, so I had to find a simpler version, and I ended up kind of like creating my own or whatever, but it's passable. It's cute. I have it up in our bedroom. Doyle thinks it's really cool. Yeah, it's not perfect. It could be way better. But I do have this cool tufted piece, and I guess I'm proud of it. I should be proud of it, right? It was a lot of work, so yeah, I'm proud of it just for the work alone. But I thought I would show that off too. So it's not knitting, but it is made with yarn, and the subject matter is also knitting. Now let's move on to some whips. And I have made a lot of progress on a bunch of my whips, and I'm very, very excited that I've been very good at balancing what ones I work on, how much I work on them, and then making time for the others. And I'm seeing a lot of progress on all of them, and I'm very, very excited because one of them is almost done. One of them is at the halfway point where I get to split for the front and the back, and two of them are more towards the beginning stages. So I've kind of got a really nice blend of where each of these patterns are in their progression, and I am so excited to share them with you today. So the first one that is almost done is my romance cardigan by Tricot Designs MCL, Marie Christine Levesque. I have a finished sleeve with all these little dangly light bulb stitch markers to tell me where my decreases are. And courtesy of having the day off yesterday and just couch rotting all day, I have the second sleeve halfway done, and I'm so excited. So let me throw this on for you. So the last time I showed this cardigan, I had most of my first sleeve done, but I told you that I was going to rip it out and start again because I didn't feel that my increases were quick enough, and I really wanted a perfectly tapered sleeve. I'm so glad I went back because this is that perfect tapered sleeve that I wanted. I ended up just going back all the way to the very first increase. I know in my last podcast episode I said I was only going to go to like maybe the third one. I ended up going all the way back to the initial one just because I really wanted to have the same rate of decreasing across the whole sleeve. I didn't want different rates at the beginning and then later on. I thought, nah, I'll take a chance. I'll go back all the way to the beginning and just have the same rate of decreasing all the way along. So this pattern does not come with a tapered sleeve option. It only has a puff sleeve option and a straight sleeved option. But Marie Christine was so excited by my tapered sleeve that she's thinking about adding a tapered sleeve option to this pattern, which would be so cool that it would be in the pattern. I know that I chatted with her and I told her what I did to make the tapered sleeve, and she really liked that, but she's the designer. She's going to come up with what works for the pattern. But this is what I did for mine. So I ended up doing my first decrease 2 centimeters after the join, and then the decreases afterwards are done every 5th row, all the way down to the sleeve. And then after my last decrease, this is a tip that I learned from Lily Kate France. Right before doing my ribbing, I did 1 row of stockinette in the same size needle that I was going to use for my ribbing, so the 2 sizes smaller than my sleeve. And then I did, I think, 20 rows of ribbing. And that just makes the first row of your ribbing even with the rest. You don't have this initial first row that is really big and bumpy. So you do 1 row of stockinette using your smaller needle, and then that's what gets you that really nice clean ribbing. And I know everyone talks about tubular bind-offs and the Italian sewn bind-offs to get those nice stretchy calves. Honestly, I can't be bothered. I just bind off in pattern, and I do it loosely so that I have this nice stretch to it. And that's all I need to get it up over my sleeve in order to wash my hands. Other than that, I don't need much more stretch, and that works just as fine. So if you feel that you want a different option to a bind-off rather than those more complicated bind-offs, try just binding off in pattern loosely. It works for me. So that is my first sleeve, and I'm very, very happy with that. And then, like I said, yesterday I was just having a couch rot day. I got up to go to the gym, and it was my second day in a row doing a morning class at the gym, and I'm usually an evening class person because I work so early in the day, but I had a couple days off, and the workout just wiped me. I think it was because we were working in the same muscle groups that we did the day before. I was just toast afterwards. I did a couple errands after the gym, came home, had a shower, and then sat on the couch and did not get up for the rest of the day practically, except to have like meals and stuff like that. But I was just, see, look, I just did that with the tank top. It's sliding back and I had to pull it forward. I digress. So yeah, I was on the couch all day yesterday, and that enabled me to do half of my decreases on my second sleeve. I was watching Sewing Bee, the season 10, the most recent one. Doyle got it for me, and I only have 2 episodes left. One of my favorite people just went home, so I'm sad. But one of my other favorite people is still in the game, so I don't know if they'll win, but I think it's going to be a really tight race for the last couple episodes of Sewing Bee, so I'm really excited to watch that. But that's what I was watching all day yesterday, and I got so much of this done, and I'm really, really happy with it. It's obviously the same as the first sleeve, but once I finish the sleeve, I can then go back to finishing the body, of which I think I only need maybe another 2 inches, and then I'm going to do probably the same length of ribbing as the sleeves if I can. If I can't, that's okay. So I talked about in my previous podcast episodes that I am dealing with a limited amount of yarn because this is discontinued yarn that I frogged from a previous project. But I have 2 small balls left after I do my second sleeve. And my hope is that I can knit the rest of what I need for the body using maybe a little less than that first ball, and then do the bottom ribbing, and then pick up and do the neckline ribbing. So I'm feeling pretty good about the amount of yarn that I have left, and I feel like I'm going to get the length that I want out of this cardigan. It is acrylic yarn, so it really won't grow very much. So that's why my sleeve is already the length that I like, because I know at best I would get maybe another inch or 2. So I really want to make sure that this fits me the way that I want pre-blocking, because it won't block very much larger than what it is now, which is fine with me. It might be because I have knitted with this yarn more than once and I have frogged it more than once. I am noticing a bit more fuzziness than originally, but it's okay. I know it's going to be pilly underneath the armpits. That happens with almost every one of my sweaters or cardigans. Like, it's a high traffic zone. It just does that. You just clean it up as you need to. It doesn't bother me all that much. But I am really loving how cozy and soft this is, especially now that I have a full sleeve done. I can really feel what this sweater is going to be like, and I love it so, so, so much. So I am looking forward to finishing the second sleeve and then finishing the body and getting that neckband done. The original pattern has a crocheted edging. I don't think I'm going to have enough yarn to do that. I might attempt it if I have enough left over. If I don't, it's okay. It's still really beautiful, and I have some really beautiful buttons that I'm going to put on it, which I'll put a picture of right here, that I think are really going to look beautiful with this. It's kind of like an icy bluish white, kind of like Snow Queen vibe. I think the original color name was just like light blue or something, but to me this really just feels white or silver with a hint of blue. It is like slightly speckled, but very, very gently. So I think it's going to be a really great neutral to have. Now that I think about it, 3 out of my 4 whips are either white or off-white. So maybe that's something that I'm drawn to right now, but I think it's also just because it's summertime. You think of light colors, you think of bright whites and that kind of thing. But my second whip that I'm going to share with you is my Seaborn Tee, which looks really, really wide, doesn't it? I have it on a secondary cord because I tried it on for a reel that I did earlier today, and I gotta say I'm a little nervous, but I'm hoping that when I block it, I can stretch it a bit up and down so that that will bring in the width a little bit. It is meant to be a positive ease sweater. T-shirt, rather. I chose size 55-inch bust, which is, I think, size B13, because there's a huge amount of sizes in this pattern. It's amazing. And my bust can range from like 50 to 53. But a little worried that it has grown. I did get gauge spot on with my needles. So I don't know what's going on here. I'm just worried. I'm a little worried. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worried. But it is meant to be a loose and floaty t-shirt. I don't want it to be tight, tight, tight. And like, I need this width to get across my bust. It's just a little wider than I wanted around my waist. But I think it'll be okay. I'm pretty sure it'll be okay because it's just going to be like this nice boxy tee. Totally fine. That's a great look. And I think once I do the top portion, it will hang better and it will sit better. Like I've mentioned many times, going bottom up makes it really, really difficult to test the fit of your project until you're about 80% done. So I am almost at the split. I am following roughly what Hannah did in the pattern. So she said that she did 5 stripes before she split, and she tells you in the pattern where she recommends that you do the split to have it be a really nice clean break from the front and the back and the body, because you have to switch from knitting in the round to knitting flat. And I think I'm doing what she's doing minus like maybe 4 rows, 5 rows. So like it's going to be very, very similar to the length of her pattern sample, which I really like. But I am going to be making a little modification once I get to the split. So in the pattern, I'm getting tired of holding this all the way out. Let me just close it up. Okay, I've just cinched it back up a bit just so it's a little easier for me to hold, so it's not like way across like this. So I am going to do a little modification when I get to the split for front and back. I say a little, but it's a moderate to large modification. I'm going to change the neckline. So Hannah recently did a different version of her Seaborn tank because she and I hosted, and are still hosting because it goes till the end of August, a knit along for Hannah's tee patterns. So it's called the HGKT Cal. I'll put it on screen here. And to join in the Cal, which is just for fun, there's no prizes or anything. We're just doing all of Hannah's tee patterns together, so you can pick any one of her t-shirt patterns to knit. She actually just released her Reveries tee, which is a brand new pattern. It's beautiful. I can't wait to make it. But I chose to do her Seaborn tee, which I have been wanting to make for quite a while. It's her most popular pattern. I really love it. It's so beautiful. And it comes with a boat neck. So it just comes like across the neck here. There is a little bit of short row shaping to make sure that it's not just like right across your neck. But you know me and necklines, I don't like them too high across my neck. So when Hannah did her version of the Seaborn tee for the Cal, I'll pop a picture here, she did the round crew neck that she did for her Tallulah tee. So she did a little bit of math to figure that out. I could do the same thing, but I don't like doing math. I like to find the easy way of doing things, like I did for this tank top. And I'm going to pick a style of neckline that would be very simple for me to do without having to do a lot of math. I'm going to make a V-neck. Once I get the body of the t-shirt split into the front and back, I think you start with the front. So I'm going to knit it flat for a little bit, and then I'm going to split basically right down the center. I'll put a stitch marker there, and I'll start decreasing outwards, and I'll knit one piece here and one piece here. So it's a little different than the way the pattern is structured, and it might be a little tricky. I don't know yet. I have to do it to find out. And then the back, I'm still going to do the exact same. And when I do my front pieces, I'm just going to decrease until I like where it is, and then I'll keep that number of stitches for the join at the sleeve, or at the shoulder rather. And when I do my back piece, when I go to bind off the stitches in the middle, I'll make sure that I have the same number of stitches that I did for the front piece, because you need to join them together. You need to have the same number of stitches. So that's going to be exciting. It's a little scary to think about doing a modification on a pattern such as this, which is, it's a detailed pattern. It's an amazingly written pattern. Hannah's so incredible. She has so many sizes. She has so many details that help you figure out how to get the best size and how to do every bit of the pattern. Like, it's really detailed, but it's going to get you a really good result, which is why I'm only a little bit nervous about the fact that this is spreading quite a bit, because when I had it on the larger cord and I was holding it across my bust, it fit quite nicely. So I'm not going to worry about it, because I trust Hannah. I know this is going to be a really good pattern, but I'm excited to do my little modification. I'm also going to do a slight modification when it comes to the sleeves, because on the pattern photo, the sleeves I find are too long for my particular style. I find with larger arms, especially if I'm wearing like a t-shirt style t-shirt, like to the gym or something, I don't like having the short sleeves come down almost to the elbow. I don't know. I feel like a football player in a football jersey, you know, because I already have like large shoulders and stuff. So I want a more delicate sleeve to give me a more delicate look. So instead of doing the one all the way to the elbow, I'm just going to shorten my sleeves. So it's easily done. A lot of people have modified that in the pattern, because a lot of people wanted a shorter little cap sleeve. So that's kind of what I'm going to do as well. So lots of modifications ahead. I need to do a little bit of focus on this to get it to the next point, but I think there'll be some more progress on this the next time I show it. I totally forgot to mention the yarns. The white is Cotton King's 500 gram cone from Hobie in the color Milk, and the dark teal blue is Knit Picked Cotton in the color Shoal. So because this tank top was such a flop, it's made me seek out better tank top patterns by designers that I can trust, or that I have been told really, really good things about. So my next project is kind of a do-over, but not quite the same. I don't remember if I showed it in my last podcast episode or if I started it after that episode, but I love this pattern. This is the 03 Ribbed Cami by Eleanor Alice Knits. And this pattern was very kindly gifted to me by one of my subscribers. Thank you so, so, so much. I really appreciate it. And I am using Hedgehog Fibers in the shade Hush. And this is their sock yarn held double. And it's a little tricky to hold right now because of the way it's constructed. It's easier to hold it upside down. It'll stay together that way. But essentially, you start off with a provisional cast on, and you start doing the cups, and then you start the back. And it was a little hairy doing the back. I was a little worried that I would twist my stitches or something because of the way that you do the back stitches, but it turned out beautifully. My best tip though is to make sure that you put stitch markers on your right hand side, otherwise you'll be showing it off in a podcast inside out. Because it's ribbing, it's so hard to tell the right side from the wrong side. Really the only way to tell the inside from the outside is that on the outside, your center stitches are knit stitches, and on the back, they're purl stitches. But when you're just looking at this quickly, it's really hard to tell if you're showing it off inside out or not. But I adore this pattern. I'm having so much fun with it. I love the construction. I love the fit. I tried it on for the first time now that I have like a decent amount of the back piece done for a little reel that I did. And if I can, I'll put a little screenshot of the fit of this top. It just looks like a bit of a bikini top right now, but it is going to have more to it. I haven't done my straps yet. I want to wait till I have more of the body done so that I can tell how much of the weight of the fabric is going to pull it down and how long I need to make my straps. But right now I'm having a great time just knitting some ribbing in the round, and I love this yarn. It is like one of my favorite colors of all time. This is the yarn that I use the mohair in my Lento sweater that fades from dark purple to light purple. And when I saw that the sock yarn was on sale one time, I bought it, intending to make a cardigan, but then this summer has just been the summer of tees and tanks, and I just wanted to hold it together to make a tank top instead. This is technically a worsted weight pattern, but I found that 2 strands of the sock held together met gauge perfectly. I did try it with 3 just to be sure. Way too thick. I didn't like the fabric. It was really dense. The 2 is the sweet spot. And because this is merino, superwash merino, it's going to be really nice for warm weather because merino is really good at regulating your temperature. It also has a lot of stitch memory, and it just looks so nice. I love it so much. So I'm really excited to keep working on this one. There are a lot of instructions in the pattern for customization for fit. So I ended up going with a size that I think was 10% negative ease, and I'm really, really happy with that. It's fitting me really, really nicely. I haven't yet decided if I want to do any waist shaping along with that because you pick based on your bust size, but then there's instructions on whether you just want to knit the body straight or if you want to add some waist shaping to sort of bring it in a little bit and then flare it back out again. And I have an hourglass figure, so I'm thinking about doing that, but I don't know if I really care enough because the ribbing is going to be super stretchy and go in and out and contour to my body really nicely. I don't really think I need the added waist shaping because the ribbing is gonna do that nice job for me. So I'm undecided. I'm gonna wait until I get a bit more of the tank top done and I can see how it fits on my body. But for right now, super pleased with it. Love working on it so much. This has become my car knitting because it's just, and by car knitting, I'm the passenger. I'm not knitting and driving at the same time. Please don't do that. My husband and I, when we commute, we both work downtown, so he drives and I knit. Works out great for me. So yeah, this has become my car knitting, so I always get in a couple of rows on the way in, a couple of rows on the way back. So more on the way back because there's always more traffic in the afternoon. Don't understand. Not everyone leaves at the same time, but they all seem to come home at the same time, and it's the same time as us. I wish it wasn't. But anyway, yeah, I've been getting quite a few rows done on the drive. In my last podcast episode, I showed the beginnings of my Pillars tank by Claire Jackson using my super precious Blue Heron rayon metallic yarn. That is my most precious yarn in my stash. And although I am continuing with that pattern, I have also kind of parked that for a little bit. So I initially started that based on healthy, like tongue-in-cheek peer pressure from Chelsea of Knitting Tipsy. And she set herself the challenge of knitting a dress in a month, which she did, and I'm going to link the video because this dress is gorgeous and I'm so proud of her. It's amazing. And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll join that bandwagon of trying to knit a dress in July. I still only have those 2 little triangles of the Pillars tank. I have not progressed any further than what I showed you last time. But the reason that I've stopped is because I'm nervous to do the bust shaping for the first time using that precious yarn. because there are no specific instructions in the pattern. There's a link to a tutorial on how to do bust shaping, and it tells you roughly how much you will need based on the difference between your full bust and your upper bust. So I chose a pattern based on my upper bust plus I think 10% negative ease. So around the same percentage as I did for the 03 rib cami. So the reason that I chose the size that I did for my initial Pillars tank, which I think I'm doing the 44-inch bust, but I'm taking it based off my upper bust, is that I am in a Discord server with Claire all about size inclusivity, and I chatted with her about like what size to choose, and she recommended that I go off of my upper bust measurement. And then in the pattern there are instructions about what size to choose based on your yarn fiber. So my rayon metallic is rayon yarn. That is a plant-based fiber. That is a very drapey, zero memory type yarn. So I decided the pattern recommends between 5% and 10% negative ease, so I chose to go to the full 10% negative ease, and I did 10% negative ease to my upper bust. So I'm going to do bust shaping for it, and because I'm trying to make this really beautiful bodycon dress. And I'm no longer trying to finish that by the end of July because it's already August, but I'm going to hopefully make that by the end of the year. I would really love to have that by the end of the year. And when I made that comment, Chelsea commented on my video saying, "It's the Starfall dress!" Which, if you're not an ACOTAR fan, it's a particular dress that Farah wears during Starfall, which is their version of winter solstice. And I had never even put that together until she said it, because the color is like the night sky. There's this lame or some sort of like polyurethane sparkle in the yarn that's woven in, and it's so sparkly, it's so pretty. And I had never put that together because when I read the books, I pictured the dress that she wears as white sparkle. But Chelsea's totally right, it's a Starfall dress. So like, how amazing would it be to finish that dress for winter solstice, aka Starfall? That would be amazing to finish it by December 21st. If not, New Year's Eve. If not, whenever I decide that I'm ready to finish it, because it is going to be a bodycon dress that I'm hoping will go down to my knees. If it doesn't, that's okay. But I have a really good feeling that I can get at least knee length and possibly longer. With a nice slit, of course. But anyway, I was too nervous to do my bust shaping for the first time, where I would need to sort of like trial a couple different amounts of bust shaping using my very precious yarn. I also would really love a V-neck tank top. So I cast on another one. So I have started the Pillars tank again. This time using some Lion brand Kobu in the color white. And I picked Kobu because it was easily accessible to me, and it was available in the amount that I needed in pure white. And also quite a few of the testers of the Pillars tank used Kobu, so I know that this yarn does work for this pattern because I've seen it on some of the samples. And I've now reached the point that I had with my first Pillars tank that I showed you. I have my two back triangles, so they are just on some waste yarn, which is why they're not spreading out right now. If I had them on a cord, it would spread out better, but I just threaded yarn through them. I didn't have all of my notions with me when I was finishing the triangle, so this is what I had in my mini notions pouch, so this is what I got. But I am really looking forward to picking up for the fronts and getting the fronts done, joining in the round, and doing bust shaping for the first time. I am a little nervous. I know I shouldn't be. I know there's all kinds of great resources out there. I have found a few that are going to work for me. I shared them in the last video. And I'm just really excited to have a really fun V-neck tank top. And it's also a V-back, if you can't tell by the fact that I have two triangles for the back. That creates a V-back. And the reason that I chose that is that I think that's just really sexy. I love the look of that. I really think I'm going to enjoy wearing that. And I think it'll just be a really nice summer tank top or any sort of like hot weather. It's definitely a great option to put underneath a collared shirt like the one I'm wearing. And of course, white and blue always go good together. But yeah, I'm really excited to get this going, and knowing that this yarn is not super duper precious like my other yarn, I feel more confident tackling the bust shaping in this version versus my dress version that is going to be super duper special. So I can trial the bust shaping that I'm going to do in this one, meticulously write down everything that I do, and then apply that to my dress version. So this will be my beta trial of doing bust shaping, and then once I have that all set up, I can apply it to my dress and be sure that it's going to work out on my dress and not worry too much about it. So the next segment of my podcast is the Stash Spotlight. And the reason I call it Stash Spotlight is because I specifically choose yarns already in my stash to show off, because I don't do an acquisition section. I don't buy yarn frequently enough to show it off in a podcast, and also that's really not my thing. I don't like constantly showing off things that I've bought. I just, I get that people like to do that. It's just not something that's for me. So I started my Stash Spotlight section to fill that void of showing off an acquisition. But today, this is technically an acquisition because it is the most recent yarn added to my stash, but I really wanted to talk about it today because of where it came from, and I wanted to share it with you today. So I have said quite a few times on my channel, I live in Nova Scotia, which is on the east coast of Canada, and in Nova Scotia, there is a very special yarn store that is mobile. This is Tracy's Rolling Yarn Shop. I'll put a picture here, which most of the time she's centered up in Cape Breton, which is in northern Nova Scotia. That's not where I live. I live a few hours away from that. And for the first time ever, she came directly to my neighborhood. And I was so excited. She's been in my general area before, but relatively far away, and it would be a hassle to get there. But she came directly to my neighborhood, and I was so excited because I've been wanting to shop from her for a long time. In fact, I had a really lovely conversation with someone on Instagram who she was looking for suggestions of things to do when she came to Nova Scotia on a cruise ship, and she and I had a great back and forth about what yarn shops are available to her, and I told her one of her ports on the cruise ship was Sydney, Nova Scotia, and I said, I don't think you're going to find much in Sydney. And after her trip, she messaged me and she said, oh my God, there was a yarn store right off the ship. It was so cool. And it reminded me, oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot about Tracy's Rolling Yarn Shop, because she's normally at the cruise ship here up in Sydney. And she came to my neighborhood, and I was so excited. Now, I did not take any photos or videos inside of her shop because it's a trailer. It's really small. Also, other people were shopping. I don't want to put my camera in their face or anything like that. I don't want to ruin their shopping experience by doing something that's selfish. So I didn't take any photos or videos. But my goodness gracious, that may be a small trailer, but it is packed with yarn. Every single nook and cranny has yarn in there, and not just one or two loosely put in there. Oh no, they're shoved in there. She has got a lot of yarn in that truck. And it was so much fun to shop because it was almost like going into a cavern of wonders. And oh my gosh, she had yarn from Nova Scotia, of course. She had yarn from New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Ontario. She even had some UK yarn. She had West Yorkshire spinners, which I've heard about on some of the British podcasts that I like to watch. And of course she had some commercially available yarns as well. Sorry for all the cuts that I'm making in this episode. For whatever reason, Rue has decided that he wants to bark at nothing today, because he has barked at least 3 times and I've gotten up and there's been nothing out there. So I do apologize for the amount of cuts in this episode. Anyway, getting back to Tracy's Rolling Yarn Shop. As soon as I walked into the shop, there was a yarn on the wall that literally jumped out at me. I swear it jumped into my arms. Not physically, but mentally. And it just put a nugget in my brain right away. But then I thought, no. Can't buy the first thing that you see. You got to take a look at everything. And I did. I took a really good look at everything. I knew that I wanted to buy yarns that I don't necessarily have access to all the time, or yarns that are difficult to get. So I wanted to look specifically at the ones that I knew that she had that I can't get most of the time. And the yarn that I got is one that I don't get. It is a cool yarn from a local dyer that is not one that I have easy access to. So there is that. But, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to buy some yarn that is something that I've never seen before? So I was looking at the Newfoundland yarns because I've never been to Newfoundland. I would love to go. Doyle wants to go back to hike Gros Morne when he's 40 because he did it when he was 30. So that's like a future trip idea that we might do. Of course, I'll have to find some yarn stores. But anyway, I was looking at all the various yarns, and of course I like to buy local if I can because there's so many great dyers around me. So I was looking at a couple of different companies, but I knew that I could get them at other places. So I thought, well, what's one that I can only get from Tracy that I haven't seen in any of my local yarn shops that I get around to? So I was looking at all of those, and honestly, there were quite a few that I liked, but nothing was speaking to me as loudly as that first one that I found. So I went back and I picked out that first one. If you've seen my Instagram, this will not surprise you, but if you haven't, how cool are these? So this is lichen and lace. Oh, I'm not even showing. There it is. There's the band. This is lichen and lace. They're a New Brunswick yarn dyer, and this is their Rustic Heather Sport, which is 100% Canadian wool. And this amazing mustard pickle green color is called Citron. And then I have paired it with one skein of pumpkin. So when I first saw these on the wall, I thought I'll just get one of this crazy green. Let me put these down because this is hard to hold now. So I saw the green on the wall and I thought I should just get one, make a really fun hat with that color. I would love that. And I saw the pumpkin and I thought, I absolutely adore that. I want a sweater out of that. And while I was standing there, I thought to myself, this feels like a really familiar color. Sure enough, I looked up my projects because sometimes you forget, especially when you're in a yarn store, you kind of have a selective memory of what you've made and what you have at home. This is almost the exact same color as my Dartmoor sweater, which I love. And the sleeves aren't the best, but I do love that sweater and I do wear that sweater a lot. I did not want to buy another sweater's quantity of the exact same color. So I switched gears and I picked out I took all that she had of the Citron. It's slightly less than I would like for a sweater quantity, but it will work because I'm going to buy some matching mohair and I'm going to knit it all up together, and I'll tell you my idea in a second. So I bought all of the Citron that she had and I bought one pumpkin, thinking I will make a green sweater and an orange hat, and the hat can go with my Dartmoor sweater. But then I got home and I laid them all out on my deck to take a picture. And I love the pumpkin against the Citron. I think it's a gorgeous color combo. And that got me thinking, why don't I make a colorwork sweater, like a colorwork yoked sweater, and use the pumpkin as the secondary color against the Citron? I love the idea. And that sparked me basically just chilling on Ravelry for a while. I didn't spend as long as I typically spend because I had already favorited a pattern that was exactly what I was looking for this yarn. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, that's the one. And I'm blanking on the name. I think it's the milkweed, but I'll have a picture right here of the pattern and the yarn together. And can you see it? Because I can totally see it and I love it. So this will not be a soon to make project because I need to get matching mohair, and I kind of want to wait to get the mohair I don't need it right away. I don't need to make it right away. So I might hold off and keep this in the stash for a little bit. I am going to get a matching mohair for the pumpkin right away because I only need to buy one. And my local yarn store has one, and there's only a few left in stock, so I want to get it while it's there. So I do have the perfect color mohair to go with this. It is Knitting for Olive mohair in the color Autumn, and online it looks like it's a perfect match for this. So really love that. The mohair that I'm going to hold with this one is a Knit Picks mohair, which I can get at any time. It's almost always there. I might just wait till there's a sale on their mohair because their mohair is a little pricey. Not pricey, but like it's $10 US a ball, and I think I need 6. So like I might wait till it's a little on sale. But the mohair that goes with this one I think is called, it might be fennel. I thought it was something with an F. It's some sort of a spice or an herb. So that's the one that I'm going to hold with this. So I do have a photo. I did like a little grid of the original yarns and the mohairs that I want to use. So I'll put that on screen too. But I'm really excited by these yarns, and I'm really excited about the pattern. The yarn itself was really affordable. These were, I think, $14 a ball, and they are sport weight 215 yards. So not super hefty, also not stingy. So, you know, it will take all of them. I might have to make some concessions on the pattern in order to get the yardage that I need to make it fit me, but I have no problem doing like a slightly cropped sweater. I think I have enough for the color work. I might have like slightly less than you need. So like, again, if I get close to the bottom of the color work, it's like a flower stalk. So if I can't do the final bottoms of the stalk and I have to end with the leaves, that's no biggie. It would still look really good. So I'm very excited about potentially doing that one. And this is really rusticy yarn, so like this will be great for color work. It'll really hold nice together, and then it'll bloom beautifully. So that is my stash spotlight today. And now time for my book review, and I only have one today. I have actually been struggling with reading lately. I've been doing a lot of stopping and starting, and this book that I'm going to share with you was recommended by a friend of mine, and when I picked it up, it really just hooked me, and I've been trying to find another experience like that lately, but like I'm just struggling to figure out what I want to read. So right now I'm currently doing a reread of something, and it's good because I really love that book, but still not really into it, and like I'm just struggling with my reading lately. I think it's because I've really been doing a lot with my knitting, and my brain is with my knitting. It's not with my books right now. So that's okay if things ebb and flow and go up and down. But this book I have really been enjoying, and this is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, not to be confused with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So if you're based in the UK or Canada, you know the title as The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. If you're in the US, you'll know this under The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And the reason that is because this book came out at the same time as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and the publisher didn't want confusion between the two titles. So that's the only reason why there are technically 2 titles to this book. It does sound confusing until you look at it on Goodreads, and it's right at the top. It is the same book with 2 different titles. This is why. But this book was lent to me by a friend, and I got hooked immediately. The premise of this book is a house party murder mystery, but the person trying to solve the mystery wakes up in a different body every single day. So the person trying to solve the mystery starts off as one character, the next day they're another character, the next day they're another character, the next day they're another character, and it is so cool. It's different than what I've read in the past for like murder mysteries. I'm not really big into reading murder mysteries. I prefer to watch murder mysteries, but I have read a couple, and this one was so good because it was different. It is definitely one that will hook you. It's one that you'll just think, what is going on? Because there's a lot of questions all at the beginning, and you get answers a little bit, But in the end, it takes a long time to figure out what's going on. And of course, there's lots of twists and turns along the way. My only gripe is that there are so many twists, especially leading up to the ending, that the final big twist is kind of cheapened by all of those little twists along the way. So like my friend gave this to me and said, there's an M. Night Shyamalan type twist at the end. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have never watched M. Night Shyamalan because I am a wimp, but I know what he's talking about. And when I did finish the book, I thought, oh, that's the big twist. I kind of saw that coming, especially because there was twist after twist after twist leading up to the ending. I thought there would be a bigger twist than what the actual big twist was, because it's one of those things. It's like Buffy, like Monster of the Week, when they get to the seasons where they are only against one villain for the entire season, and the villain just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. By the time they actually get to the point where they defeat the villain, it's like, oh, that's all it took. So it's just kind of one of those things that, like, if they had done fewer twists or made the final twist a little bit bigger, it might have had more impact on me. So that was like my one main critique about this. My other critique is that there is some really, really, really bad fat phobia in this book. And it's something that I picked up on right away. My husband picked up on right away. But when I talked to my friend who lent me this book, he actually hadn't picked up on it right away. And I think it's just based on your personal experience. So myself being a fat person, my husband being married to a fat person, we were very aware of it. And it really was gratuitous. It did not need to be that bad. So like I said, the person trying to solve the mystery wakes up in a different body every single day. And I think it's the second or third day. I think it's the third day. He wakes up in the body of a rather large man. And the way that he describes how it feels to be in that body is incredibly fat phobic. And I found it quite disgusting and incredibly unnecessary. So no one had asked the author on Goodreads about the fat phobia. So the author has a public profile on Goodreads where there is an option to ask the author a question. So I have since submitted a question asking him if he felt the fat phobia was necessary to the extent that it was done. So if he ever answers it, it will show up in the profile on Goodreads, and I would love it if he did answer that question, but I understand why he wouldn't, because he's become a much more well-known author since the publication of this book. But that was a really hard section to get through of the book. That particular character is quite a fair portion of the book, just because that character makes a lot of headway with solving the mystery. So it's kind of really sucky to have it be so distasteful with the body of that character and the way that the character within that body describes it. So, not my favorite section of the book. Really wish the fat phobia hadn't been there. The point that the author needed to get across really did not have to be made that strongly. So, those are my only two caveats for why I didn't like this book, but in general, I really did enjoy this book. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It really will hook you. There's some really great characters in this book. The mystery is really interesting. And yeah, at a time where I'm kind of struggling with my reading, it was really nice to pick up a book and just be hooked immediately and really get into it. And that wraps up episode 26 of the Knitted by Whitney podcast. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. While you're here, it would help my channel if you could like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell icon to be notified when my new videos come out. I'm currently working on the stash tour video, which hopefully will be recorded very soon. So if you ring that bell, you'll be notified when that video comes out. If you feel like giving me a tip, I have a link in my description to my Ravelry wish list where you can buy me a pattern on my wish list. No pressure to do so. It's only there if you feel like it. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all take care and happy knitting!